Remember the 5th of November, the Gunpowder Treason and Plot. I know of no reason why the Gunpowder Treason should ever be forgot.
When V for Vendetta released back in 2005, not many moviegoers knew at the time that their new favorite movie was actually based off of a comic book graphic novel. And not many fans of the graphic novel or the movie itself knew that the story was based on a real-life event from 1605.
But the film quickly became a cult classic phenomenon over the years and has even influenced real-life groups and organizations since its release. Just 3 years before RDJ launched into the MCU with his role as Ironman, Hugo Weaving brought to life British vigilante known only as V in such a masterful performance that we never even have to see his face.
So this November 5th, 16 years later, the Beard and I sit down to discuss this comic-themed masterpiece. Season 2, Episode 34, Remembering the 5th of November, starts right after this.
Please stand by.
Good evening, London.
This is the Bear and the Beard podcast. Your hosts are just two nerdy guys talking nerdy things. This nerdtastic duo sits down every episode, sometimes with friends and guests, to explore a new topic related to nerd or pop culture. They may disagree or argue sometimes, and you may not always agree with them, but please remember, this show is mostly their opinion, with some research and facts added in along the way. And the most important goal is to have fun. Welcome to the conversation. Let's get nerdy with it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of the Bear and the Beard podcast. I'm joined, as always, by my majestically bearded, faithful co-host, Bearded Brian Guy, the Beard. Brosius Mayo, my guy.
Mayo Brosius, my dude. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Just actually rewatched this movie last night before recording. I knew it so well. I was quoting it most of the first half. So it was really fun to just sit back, and we thought about this idea because we were like, hey, we have an episode coming out on the 5th of November. What are we going to do? V for Vendetta. Like, come on. It's the same as if we were releasing an episode on May 4th, and we would definitely do a Star Wars day. So it's, but yeah.
Let me write that down real quick.
Yeah, May the 4th be with you day. Yeah. But yeah, so that's what we're talking about today, dear listener and viewer. We are talking all about the film V for Vendetta, its comic book inspirations, its real life implications in some instances, and we're going to give you a little bit of backstory on the actual Gunpowder Treason and plot of 1605 as well.
I see no reason we should ever forget about it.
Right? So, when people think of V for Vendetta, they of course think first off of the Guy Fawkes mask that was made popular by that movie. But when Mama Bear thinks about it, she comes up with fun facts. So we're going to get into those real quick. Let's do Mama Bear's fun facts.
I don't get paid enough. I don't get paid, period.
And now it's time for Mama Bear's fun facts.
That's it. That's all I know.
All right, let's get into this. She's got a few photos today. 4 of them. Oh no,
yeah,
6, 5. 5. There we go.
Yeah, 5. Got 5 fun facts today. Why don't you go ahead and give us that first one there, Brian?
Let me put on my reading glasses. There we go. And by that I mean zooming in. Let's ruin the magic a little bit. So most people credit Hugo Weaving for the brilliant performance of the masked man V, but did you know the first of V was James Purfoy?
Okay.
He lasted about 6 weeks into shooting before possibly quitting. Some say he wasn't comfortable wearing a mask through the shooting, but he stated it was actually due to artist differences. Purfoy's scenes were kept and dubbed over with Weaving's voice to save time and money. There was also 2 stunt doubles that were performed as well. Chad Stahelski was on scene for the Lark Hill shooting, where he had to actually walk through real fire. David Leitch, I'm not sure, is a fight coordinator and the other stunt double. They actually walked through real fire. What?
Yeah. It says here that David Leitch actually filmed scenes at normal speed while everyone else moved slowly. And yes, it was to save money. So that's okay.
I mean, we have some awesome scenes from that anyway. So,
and to talk about the artistic differences, I mean, dude, the artist differences could have been the fact that the artist wanted him to wear a mask. So it's you know, what is it, half dozen in one hand, six in the other? Like, that's kind of the same thing. So you're not really saying anything different by saying you left for artist differences. So, I mean, you know, whatever. Fact number 2, the Guy Fawkes mask was essential to the role, but it was bulky and hard to speak through it. Finally, a new mask was created with a built-in microphone woven into the mouth. It still didn't pick up Weaving's voice quite properly enough, just properly enough for the other actors to hear him. Weaving then had to go and re-record all of his lines in a sound studio after shooting was complete to dub over.
That's
so
an interesting fact.
Double work, I guess, but worth it, because this.
I mean,
we talked about
you
this
can't
before.
even tell.
Yeah, you can't really tell that it's not like him speaking, because they did it in such a way that it sounds like it's coming from behind that mask, and it's really cool. What's fact number 3 there, Brian?
Music, which I love music. Music is a big deal in a film, and it can add emphasis to a scene or elevate an emotional moment. In the case of V for Vendetta, music is used to hide hidden messages. The V symbol is riddled all over the film. The music falls and rises to spell out a series of V's on a staff sheet.
Wow.
That's pretty creative.
That's attention to detail, too. I would love if one of our fans, if one of our listeners or viewers wants to tell us how many times the V shows up in this movie, like the hidden V, that would be really cool. Last fact here, fact number 4, the film is filled with elaborate fight scenes, so you would think the hardest scenes to shoot would be a fight scene. It's really the domino scene was the hardest. Shots of V's plans coming together as pieces over the visual of him setting up hundreds of colored dominoes to fall in the formation of his own symbol, that was the hardest. This scene used professional domino assemblers. Yes, they are real. It's also 22,000 dominoes over 200 hours just to set up this scene, which had to be shot several times to get different angles of the dominoes falling. Talk about overworking. And commitment to detail. We talked about that. So
what I will say about people who set dominoes, I've seen some people do it on TikTok, not to the 22,000 dominoes, not to that effect, but still they set dominoes and create art with it. It's very creative. I've seen people do it with Rubik's Cubes as well. The amount of time, I mean, there's time you have to put into art no matter what, but the amount of time they put into the details for this kind of art is just mind-blowing.
Right.
Showing what humans are truly capable of.
That's really cool. I didn't know that about the dominoes. And the domino scene is one of my favorite little small details in this movie too. Like, it's
the climax of the movie.
Hearing this, it's not a small detail, it's a big deal. But when you watch it, it's just like the dominoes fall. It's like, oh, what's it gonna make? And then it makes the symbol, and it's like, oh, that's cool. That's really cool. So thank you, Mama Bear, for those fun facts. Really appreciate that. Those 4 little facts there. And now we move on to talking about the movie. Plot summary. And I don't know what's up with IMDb. Like, I don't know if I'm finding these small plots or something, but I've learned this from IMDb.
It's not just IMDb. It's Netflix. It's all of them. For some reason, there's no way to describe, especially incredible movies, into a short little dialogue, and so they really had to simplify it. That's why these are always so disappointing. But I also love them because I almost love being disappointed by the simplification of this movie is too complicated to sum up. No, it's not. This is the summary, and it's correct.
But then we spend an hour trying to get as many details of the movie in as possible too. So there you go. Plot summary for V for Vendetta is: in a future world run by British tyranny, a shadowy freedom fighter known only by the alias of V plots to overthrow it with the help of a young woman. So, and we know from the film it's supposed to be post-apocalyptic. I never really actually considered when it's supposed to be set, because they never really mention a year. So for that, I had to go to the graphic novel that it's based off of. The graphic novel, of course, being written by Alan Moore, illustrated by David Lloyd. initially was published in 1982 in a black and white ongoing serial in a short-lived UK anthology, Warrior. It morphed into a 10-issue limited series published by DC Comics. They then collected some of the editions, published them under Vertigo until the label was shut down in 2018. Since then, it has been transferred to Black Label. And the story depicts a dystopian and post-apocalyptic near-future history version of the United Kingdom in the 1990s, preceded by a nuclear war in the 80s that devastated most of the world. So,
you can tell
essentially,
it's the future, but it's not.
Right. It's like we talk about alternate timelines a lot with different nerd things that we talk about. It's almost as if someone went back and made the Cold War not be so cold, and that produced this timeline where this took place. So
I'm going to say the most confusing thing for this movie for me is understanding this government. I mean, I barely understand our real government in the real world, let alone the UK government that makes no sense to me, let alone a fake futuristic version of the UK government. So they take the UK government that I already don't understand, and it's not even the same government. They create a fictional version of it. And so it's too confusing for me to understand who's actually, like, how much power does the main guy actually have? Right. But he's elected, and so that's the one part of the movie that I will say confuses me. And considering it's all about the politics, that's a very important thing to not understand.
Yeah. And again, that kind of added to the mystery of this movie as well. Like, especially over here in America, when I first watched it, I was like, I don't know what's going on, but this is amazing. Like, because I mean, it came out all the way back in 2005. So all I knew was I wanted a Guy Fawkes mask after I watched it. So like that's pretty much it for me. But to date, all the way back to 1982, that's pretty impressive too. Like, so this movie came out right around the time of the Cold War. So it would have not the movie, the graphic novel came out right around the time of the Cold War. So that would have been like the inspiration for Alan Moore to sit there and go, what if the Cold War turned hot? What would happen here in the UK? Not what would happen in the USA. We have plenty of movies, plenty of stories about what would happen to that. The Americans, I think, is one of those, like, about the Cold War and stuff like that. Television show, TV drama, and all that. We have plenty of examples of what would happen in America and in Russia. But what would happen in the UK? Like, they're kind of in the middle. So Alan Moore did a great job telling this story. And then the filmmakers did a great job bringing it to life.
Absolutely.
To the point where when you watch it now, knowing that it's based off a graphic novel, you're like, yeah, I see it. It's nice. I like it.
Well, the other great thing about it is the fact that it has something for everyone. Like, a child's not going to understand why V does what he does. They're just going to see, oh, there's bad guys trying to attack the girl. He's going to protect them. He's a hero of some sort.
Right.
I mean, when I first watched it, that's all I saw. Oh, cool fight scenes. This is awesome. I didn't fully understand the story. And then when you're an adult, you can really appreciate this is what the world could look like under a totalitarian. Thank you.
Yeah.
Government. I mean, they're completely in control.
We passed English class, people. We know what we're saying. We just get
I went to school in Nebraska.
And I went to school in the South. So, but yeah, I mean, and that's a great point. Like, the young kids aren't going to understand. Like, I could sit my kids down and watch this, tell them it's a comic book movie. And that was the other thing too. Like, there's not really a whole lot of gore if you think about it either. Like,
pretty much just that one last fight scene.
Well,
they have some blood splatter, and it looks.
Yeah, there's the scene where he stabs the cop and, blood comes out of his mouth, but that was about it. Every death that V is responsible for happens pretty much off camera except for that final fight scene. Like, he doesn't show him killing them, and which is really interesting. We talked about that in our Venom verse, like, oh, this would have been a lot more cooler, but for this movie, it kind of fit. Yeah. Because there was the cops are after him, the cops are trying to tie it together. So we didn't need to see him kill. We just knew he was responsible, and that was enough.
Also, so much respect to Hugo Weaving This
Yes.
movie shows his acting skills in the best possible way to describe them, because we were gaming before this, and we're talking about how he's able to convey, Bear brought this up, he's able to convey emotions without seeing his face.
Right.
Body language is such a hard thing to act, and he does it perfectly. You know when he's mad. You know when he's longing after someone. You know how he feels, and he doesn't look any different.
Right. All with a tilt of the head or a position of like his arms and stuff like that. And he's very expressive with his hands too. Like
Yes.
especially in the first scene we see him in where he's talking, about vividly and all that. Like he's talking a lot with his hands, which is really, really hard to do most of the time in a movie, unless you have a character that has that as a trait. You try not to do that. You want to tell them like, hey, be more expressive with your face, with your words and stuff like that. But with this, they had to go talk with your hands, say a lot. And again, we talked about this in the fun facts. Only the actors could hear him after they, modified the mask is what we're being told. So that in itself, it's like, so you're doing all this filming knowing that you're going to have to go back and reconvey the emotion in your voice when you re-record that line.
He does it great. I mean, the dub over work
Does a great job.
Usually you can tell. You can't tell. He fits into the world so perfectly.
Verily, this vichyssoise of verbiage veers most verbose, so let me simply add that it's my very good honor to meet you, and you may call me V.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. And the mask is iconic.
The rest of the cast was just as good. I mean, now Natalie Portman, she's in the MCU. We know her. That's Jane Foster. She'll be coming back in Thor for Love and Thunder, so that's going to be pretty cool.
I'm Evie.
Evie? Evie. Of course you are.
What does that mean?
Yeah, John Hurt, who played
I love John Hurt.
Sutler. He's a great guy. Great for the role. Creepy though. Like creepy how accurate.
He can play a fucking villain. Oh my god.
I want everyone to remember why they need us.
One of the best villains he plays is actually in the movie Hercules. He plays the king or whatever, the emperor or whatever it is, and man, he delivers. Everything he's in, he delivers. He voices dragons in like Merlin. He is an incarnation of the Doctor during the wartime.
Oh, that's
great actor.
Yeah. Great actor, Tim Pygott Smith, who played Creedy. That was another. He's not a very well-known actor to me, but I loved to hate him. He played that creepy, I'm going to take care of this because my government tells me to. But he also kind of had that I'm going to enjoy it kind of motif about him, and
twisted.
I did not like
twisted.
that. Yeah.
Are you saying I'm under surveillance, Mr. Creedy? At this time, it would behove you to cease any investigation of matters that have long since passed.
Stephen Fry, we've seen him in some other nerdy stuff. He played Mycroft Holmes in the second Sherlock movie with Robert Downey Jr.
In the future, there'll be one of those machines in every town in Europe.
Loitering in the woodshed again, are we, Mikey?
Good evening, Shirley.
I have on my Audible, they took the works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle of Sherlock Holmes, and he narrates them. So if you haven't checked that out, check that out. It's great to hear him tell the stories of Sherlock Holmes. He talks a little bit about his history with Sherlock. Great actor. Stephen Fry is just a great actor all around. Stephen Ray played Inspector Finch, which is the cop that we followed through the whole movie. I loved his kind of like, when you first see him, you think he's a company guy, but he's just kind of burned out because it would almost seem like there's not a lot of work to do in this government for a detective because no questions asked, you committed a crime, you're out of here. But he really starts putting in the work, and you notice as the movie develops, like he evolves almost just as much as Natalie Portman's Evie does, because he's evolving to go, my job used to be this, I'm having to do it again, and my government is wrong for making me do it the other way that I've been doing it. I need to do actual police work. And that was really, really cool. Rupert Graves too, playing Dominic.
One thing I will say, what was his name again? The cop?
Stephen Ray playing Inspector Finch.
And Finch. He's one of those characters, you could take him out of the story and nothing much would change. But you also don't want to take him out because it adds that buffer.
There was also Roger Allum. I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but he was in like Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff like that. He played the voice of London, Prothero.
Listen to me, you bleeding sod. England prevails because I say it does, and so does every lazy on this show, and that includes you.
Which was another great performance from him. And like you said, and to that point of, you could take this guy out, but you don't want to, that could really be said for a lot of these characters. Like, we didn't have to see Sutler. He could have just been a voice over the intercom, and have John Hurt provide, voice backup, or just all these dark orders coming from a mysterious place that we never see until the end of the movie or something like that. That could have happened, but you don't want it to happen like that. Creedy, you could have taken him out. You could have just had a team of creepy guys that enjoyed doing the government's work and stuff like that.
Sutler's
but you don't
death
want
was
to take
so
him
satisfying, though.
Yeah, it really was.
Like on the screen, he's yelling all the time, like he thinks he has power. And this is how people like him really are. They'll yell and yell and yell because they're hiding in a safe place, and then you have them where the danger is, and they're crying like a little baby.
Yep, exactly. That's I couldn't sum it up better. It's like you're hiding behind
security.
You're not a powerful man, but you're hiding behind the power that's been given to you. But as soon as you're removed from behind that protective curtain, you're just as vulnerable as everybody else.
It's kind of like brave as you act like you are. I mean, he'll sit there and talk about, the freaking V guy. He's a menace. He's this and that. But as soon as he's standing in front of V, he's begging for mercy because he knows he's screwed.
I'm getting J. Jonah Jameson vibes. Like every time Spider-Man actually shows up in like the old cartoon, like when he's not at his news reporting desk, like, yeah, he's got something to say, but he's not nearly as threatening as he is when Spider-Man's not actually around.
Spider-Man, I knew you two were in this together.
Hey, kiddo, let Mom and Dad talk for a minute, will you?
I have a lot of stuff that I've learned about J. Jonah Jameson I want to talk about in a Spider-Man episode, but that's neither here nor there.
Coming in December around the same time as the No Way Home release. Definitely check us back.
We definitely want to get it out before then, but we're trying to wait for another trailer to see if we can get a little more information because we want to speculate before we see it. A little bit in an episode,
and we want to just talk Spider-Man. Like, how did we get to No Way Home? So that's going to be fun. We talked about the graphic novel. We talked about the plot. The plot of the story or of the movie. Let's talk a little bit about the Gunpowder Treason and plot of 1605, the real life event. Now we talked.
I feel like we should call in my boss because he was a history teacher and he could probably actually go on about this.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, in the movie and in the graphic novel, of course, everything that happens, the nuclear war and all that is fake, but one real life thing is mentioned, and that is the gunpowder plot of 1605. The gunpowder plot of 1605 in earlier centuries, often called just the gunpowder treason plot of the Jesuit Treason, was a failed assassination attempt against King James I by a group of provincial English Catholics led by Robert Catesby, who sought to restore the Catholic monarchy from the Church of England after decades of intolerance against Catholics. The plan was essentially the same as we see in the very first of the movie: blow up the House of Lords during the state opening of Parliament on 5 November 1605. But what essentially happened was there was a bunch of people that were, fellow plotters, John and Christopher Wright, Robert and Thomas Wintour, Thomas Percy. But the one we hear about is Guy Fawkes, because his part of the plan was the part that failed. And I didn't know this until I started doing research for the episode. But Fawkes, he actually had 10 years of military experience fighting in the Spanish Netherlands. in the failed suppression of the Dutch revolt, and it was given charge of the explosives because of that experience. And the plot only failed because the attempts details were exposed to the British via an anonymous letter, and we see the plot unfolding in the opening scene of V for Vendetta. So the reason the dogs and everyone's there when Guy Fawkes is pushing his cart of explosives, someone ratted him out.
Yeah.
So, like, that speaks volumes to the rest of the movie. Now, go and rewatch the movie now, knowing that fact, dear viewer and listener, and think about why now V is very, very, like, he wants to trust Evie, but he can't, because the whole plot that they're remembering was undone by someone saying something they shouldn't have said.
In the end, he trusted her. I mean, he put her through a test that she should have never had to go through, but it also made her tough. I don't know how I feel about it. Like, some people have a very black and white feeling about it. Either, oh, it was great because it made her tough. Oh, it was terrible because he tortured her for however long, 6 months or 7 months or whatever it was. And because it wasn't the full year in between that happened, but it was a long time that she thought she was in prison and she was being tortured, and it was just him. And I see a very middle ground. I see why he felt he needed to do it, but on the same end, he's torturing her for no reason. But in the end, it was her decision to decide how it felt, and she thought it made her tougher. And so
I remember the line he delivers when she finds out that it was just him was the whole, I can't tell you how many times I wanted to stop. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to tell you, but it was necessary to show you what these people do, who these people really are. Like, he had to,
and at least she was safe. She was always safe. Yeah. She didn't think she was, and it was still traumatic.
Right.
And that's still valid, but she was never in danger of dying.
I compare it to, like, anytime someone joins the military, their program at basic training is to break you down to rebuild you stronger. The reason that we're even discussing, like, some people discuss this as a gray area for the character of Evie to go through this is, one, she's female. Two, it's not a military program. It was torture. It's not trying.
And she
to
didn't
build
ask
you back
for it.
up.
Like, he makes it seem like
exactly.
He makes it seem like he's doing something for her, but she never said, "Hey, make me tough." Like, yes, she's tough from it, and she's probably better off for it. But she didn't say, "Hey, I really want someone to make me tough. I'm so weak and can cry all the time and be scared." No, she didn't have to go through it.
And shout out to Natalie Portman for pulling off that role as well. Like, we first see her, she's just this, it's almost like she's a damsel in distress kind of thing. Then she helps V, but she also betrays him. And then she's caught, and it's actually V catching her, but she doesn't know that. And she pulled off that I'm downtrodden, but she held to her resolve. I'm not going to tell you where he is. I'm not going to tell you anything I know about him. And, I'll die here first kind of thing. And then at the end, she comes out on the other side stronger, but in a lot of ways scarred, and not just physically. So it was definitely an emotional role for her. I'm sure. I think she actually cut her hair for that role as well.
V is not 100% a hero.
No, definitely.
That's definitely a point to make. He's not a perfect hero.
I don't remember if we talked about him in our very first episode, which, God, that feels like forever ago. Vigilantes, heroes or criminals. If we didn't talk about him, now is a perfect time to, because what does he?
I put him right on the criminal side. I mean, he believes his ends justify his means, and maybe they do.
Right.
Maybe the world's better off. But I mean, there is some character in the movie made the point of, if they blow up the building, they're just blowing up a building.
Right.
It sends a message, but who says that message actually changes anything?
Right. And he stuck to the whole, I'm just a man. I'm trying to, this blowing up this building is a symbol, but symbols are only given power by people. Yeah. And, he tries to make that point. But I mean, for instance, and we don't get political on this show, but let's just say, I'm not saying this is going to happen. Let's just say our government decided to try to pull something off like what the government did in the UK in this movie, in the graphic novel. As much as I am I love my freedom and all that, as soon as it started getting taken away, I feel like I would still kind of conform, like, for safety. But at the same time, I would be upset with it. And that's point number one. Point number two is, if someone like V came along and started blowing up buildings, yes, you waited until the building was empty. Yes, you did it in such a way that it wouldn't cause any damage. But how can you know that? Just because you're an explosive
How do you know
expert,
someone?
Yeah,
you didn't know was going to be in there was in there.
Dangerous. It would still be very dangerous. And that's just based off the things that we know he did. Like, they tried to spin it in the movie like he was hurting innocent people and all this other stuff, and that he was a terrorist. And actually,
he is.
He kind of was. Yeah,
his idea was the hero. Like the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people marching with the masks. That was what the hero was. But he himself, the man beneath the mask, the man, the blood, however he described it, that was not a hero. His idea was.
Yeah.
The idea of freedom. And that's what makes even the organizations that are based off of this, like what Anonymous was supposed to stand for, all that stuff, it's supposed to be for true freedom, that no one is actually in control of us. And just know that we're united.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that a little bit too, only because they have the connection due to the masks. Just very quickly, for those of y'all that don't know what we're talking about, Anonymous, decentralized international activist/hacktivist collective and movement widely known for its various cyber attacks against several governments, government institutions, and government agencies, corporations, and the Church of Scientology. Originated back in 2003, so a couple years before V for Vendetta actually came out, on the image board 4chan, representing the concept of many online and offline community users simultaneously existing as a anarchic, digitalized global brain or hive mind. The connection to V for Vendetta comes from they can be distinguished in public by wearing the Guy Fawkes masks in the style portrayed in the graphic novel of the film V for Vendetta. However, this may not always be the case, as some of the collective prefer to instead cover their face without using the well-known mask as a disguise. So they also opt into masks that change their voice through voice changers, text-to-speak programs, stuff like that. But after this movie came out, a lot of Anonymous users as a collective, not that they like went out and were like, hey, this is ours, we're taking this, but they in a way kind of did, because to let someone know they'd been there, Guy Fawkes graffiti, wearing the Guy Fawkes mask if they were doing internet videos or something when they were going after certain people. And
the problem with Anonymous is the fact that it is a large group of people, and people always have agendas. The main message of Anonymous, I will always be like, yes. I mean, go after those fucking bastards with their secrets, all of that stuff. But some of them are just there's an Anonymous channel on YouTube where they have some conspiracy stuff where I'm like, yeah, maybe, but then they're just too conspiracy ridden now. Pretty much any conspiracy out there, there's an Anonymous video saying that's true. And I'm not in it for that. I can't get behind that.
It's a lot. And we talked about this before recording. There's those people in every group that would offset themselves from the original agenda. Like, you're holding true to the core values, but that's it. But you're going about it a way different way.
Well,
so
and every group of people have some part of them that are the worst part. Like whether you're conservative or liberal, there's hard right and hard left that are way too crazy, and then there's people who kind of see both sides a little bit. I mean, and there's some people who are way too in the middle. There's always a spectrum. No one is one thing or the other thing, but being too far onto one side of anything is dangerous.
Right. The comparison I always like to make is, I'm a Christian, but I'm not a Westboro Baptist Christian. Like, that's the way extreme side, the Bible thumping, I'm gonna shove my Bible down your throat side of the Christian religion. And just like that with Anonymous, there's people in Anonymous that make Anonymous look bad. There's people in every group that make that group look bad. So, and that was something that for them to start wearing the Guy Fawkes masks inspired by the movie V for Vendetta, it was kind of like, wait, so now is this movie bad? Is this movie good? You know, it was kind of up in the air. But, you know, I'd like a Guy Fawkes mask, not because I'm a hacktivist. I just want one. So,
they look cool. They look cool, right. Okay? I want to dress up as V so I look bad.
Right. So to get back to the movie, to get back to his plot, let's talk about how much planning it took. Like, because you know it did. There was
just to acquire the supplies.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Was there an explanation in the movie how he acquired that much bombs?
Nope. Never explained his methods, just explained how he was going about doing stuff. He blew up the Bailey. He sent like the cloaks and hats and wigs and Guy Fawkes masks to the TV station. He knew where they were going to be.
He did everything on his own.
Yeah. He knew where they were going to be
tunnels,
everything.
The tunnels were not supposed to be cleared, and he took the time to clear them.
Right. Yeah.
That's all they say.
Yeah. I asked Mama Bear, like, while we were watching it last night before we recorded, it's like, they never explain where his, like, area is, like, his headquarters. Like, where he has all the stuff that he's stolen from the censor and stuff. They never really explain where that is, and you start thinking about it, like, he couldn't have built that on his own. It's underground. He even said that. So he couldn't have built that with that kind of architecture all on his own in the few years between him leaving the what was it, the Lark Hill, and then becoming V, you know, or becoming known to the public. So he couldn't have done that. So that had to pre-exist. The subway tunnels pre-existed. The subway train itself pre-existed. He just might have had to clear it all out, set it all up, do some lighting, you know, and stuff like that. But a very smart vigilante, I would have to say. Oh, very patient.
I mean, there's villains and heroes who have that Eobard Thawne mentality, like, I waited 15 long years. Like, the patience.
Right.
Because your mission is so important to you, you can wait as long as you need to. You will work as hard as you need to. That is pure will. I'm going to say it right now, whether he's a hero or a villain or whatever you want to call V, he would be one hell of a powerful Green Lantern.
Oh, yeah. Just on his sheer power of will alone. I would love to see them, and they might have done this. If it exists, comic book fans, let us know. I would love to see Batman and V have a conversation. Like, that would be interesting to see if that actually ever happened in comic books, because you know that Batman can't agree with his tactics, like how he goes about doing stuff. But at the same time, what?
I googled Batman meets V, and all that came up was Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
So, comic book fans, let us know if you remember an issue of either Batman or V for Vendetta or something like that where they ever met up. That would be cool. If they haven't done it, you know, Warner Brothers, get on that, or DC, get on that, whatever. Because that would be really cool. This movie itself had a budget of $54 million estimated, and to this day, worldwide gross income has been $132.5 million estimated. So that's pretty cool. Like, you pretty much almost tripled your budget for your income. So that's really good. And it didn't really take a lot to make this movie. Like, I'm sure it did. I'm not saying that, but like, it was set in the real world. It's not like other Hugo Weaving projects we've seen, like Captain America, where he plays Red Skull. Like, all the CG and stuff that they had to do for him to be Red Skull and all that. It's not like Lord of the Rings, where he plays one of the elf leaders, you know, and stuff like that. It's not a huge CG project.
Matrix, where there's millions of them.
Right. It's not a huge CG budget film for them to be able to see him what they did. Right. You didn't even see Hugo.
That little joke of the guy that she was staying with, the news guy, his little joke of
I am V. At last you know the truth.
That is not funny, Gordon.
Yeah, I know. I'm useless without a studio audience.
they could have totally
Right.
went like, oh, yep, he actually is.
Yeah, he actually is. But it and there was tons of little interactions like that I just loved. Like I love how Evie, every person she comes in contact with, they give her the same line. Like V, the first time she wakes up in his, headquarters or whatever, he gives her that line of, if they find me here, the paintings will be the least of my worries. And stuff like that. And then when she goes to Stephen Fry's character, Dietrich, and he says, if they come here, you will be the least of my worries. Like, and stuff like that. And because he's got a small little collection hidden in his house too. And
He has a Torah.
what I loved about, he had a Quran, he had, he had a Nazi
Quran,
flag or
I
something
said
like
the
that.
wrong
I
name.
can't remember. Like, he had a bunch of different things, and it wasn't because like he identified with any of that stuff. He just thought they deserved to be respected as art, as historical items, and stuff like that. It wasn't like he was a
It
practicing
honestly
Muslim.
reminded me very much of. Have you ever seen the movie Equilibrium?
I don't think I have.
It's a movie. It's another post-apocalyptic movie, but the way that the government has control is everyone is required to take these pills every day that suppress all emotions.
Mm.
And having anything like music or art or anything like that is illegal because those express emotions. And their whole logic of the society is we live in a peaceful society because war is only waged on emotions.
I mean, it's
And
a valid point.
It shows how terrible the world would be and also peaceful if we didn't allow like memorabilia or anything significant, like your grandma's urn. You don't have that. Anything that could have emotional value, sentimental value, it's illegal. And eventually some of these people start waking up and they're getting their emotions back. And you take emotions for granted so easily, but they're so important to us as humans.
I'll have to look into that. I know that that's another common theme too in The Giver, which is that's a book based off of a novel where something similar to that. It's like we've established the society. This is the way society goes. There's only one person that can have the memories of the past people and emotions and stuff like that, but that person still has to be kept in check and stuff like that, only so that can be passed down to further generations and stuff. And that movie's creepy in itself if you ever give it a watch. But yeah, it's a common theme, and this movie is no different. The theme of the government's in control, the censor and all that. And V says itself in his little when he's talking to everyone over the TV, it's like, I know why you did it. I know, why you thought that this was safe because the world around you, he pretty much says, I know that the world around you was scary and you wanted protection and you gave all the power to these people, but these people with that power were corrupt and they've now corrupted the system to I guess support themselves in a way so that they can live. Like there's the line from when he cooks Evie breakfast and she's like, I haven't had butter since I was a kid. And she's like, where did you get it? He's like, I stole it from a convoy on its way to Commander Sutler's house. So butter's supposed to be bad, but Sutler can have it.
Yep, because he's in power. He can have whatever he wants.
That was a very little small point, but it spoke volumes when you're thinking about how corrupt the system is. So it was really cool. I think the movie was just overall amazing. All the interactions between V and Evie, especially early on in the movie, were just great. I love the little subtle. V's got a line for everything. Like he's got a quote or a line from something that just it speaks so much to how smart he actually is.
I do want to say Wayne from Letterkenny has nothing on V when it comes to the alphabetical aerobics.
Right? It was just great. It was a great movie overall. It inspired, a lot of different thought processes. Like even now when we have here in America, we have people that, that are like, the line of what does V say? The government, people should not be afraid of their government. The government should be afraid of their people.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff gets thrown around a lot nowadays because of the things we're seeing happen in our world, not just our country, in our world. But that's also a double-edged sword, because some people use it for something small that doesn't actually mean that the government's overstepping, and they're missing the point of what's actually going on.
Yeah.
So
there's real ways that the government infringes on people's lives, and some people want to make some things like putting a cloth on your face. Oh, that's the government infringing on my life. You don't know infringement.
Right. Like, and the whole, and like I said, we don't get political on the show, but this is one of those movies where we're going to get a little political because it inspires that thought process of,
Yes.
like, there's the people that think, oh, well, they're going to put a tracking chip in the vaccine. All right. First of all, that technology isn't quite perfected enough to do that yet on that small a scale. Second of all, they don't need to do that. You have a cell phone. Like, you're telling people where you're at on Facebook and Instagram and all these other little apps. Why does the government need to put something in your arm to track where you are when you have your phone on you at all times?
At the end of the day, we all know government is always corrupt because it tracks those people that they want more power and they want more.
Right.
They want more. They want more. And I always say the line, you tell me you see an honest politician, I say that no, you're lying. There's no honest politician. I don't trust any of them. And this movie shows when we give them we need politicians because we need someone to make the decisions, but we also need to keep them in check, because if they get too much power, like in this post-apocalyptic world, it's you're not going to notice it in your day-to-day life, but you will. It's a feeling of knowing you can't have that painting on the wall.
How's the thing go? There's no such thing as an honest politician because politics are inherently dishonest.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. Like, there's no such thing as an honest politician because politics are dishonest. So
and the more control they get, the more they're going to say there's peace.
Right.
But Ultron said it best. You're confusing peace with quiet.
Yes, exactly.
They want us all to shut up. They want to take away our voice. They want us to stand in line, be good. And honestly, to get a little political, because this does inspire that, both sides equally do not want to stand down. And they all think that the other side is the one that's the sheep. But really, that thought process alone, thinking the other side's the sheep and they're our enemy, that is falling into their trap in and of itself. They want us divided. To quote Avengers again, united we stand, divided we fall. Sounds like a silly comic book thing, but it's true.
Right.
We are numbers. If we all marched in Guy Fawkes masks towards whatever, and with a good goal in mind, not just to take over and be violent, we could change the world.
Yeah. But people are too busy trying to fight each other. And
we think our brother and sister down the street because they have a different political view. I don't care what your political view is. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're liberal. I don't care if you're in the middle. As long as you are a good person, you treat people with respect, and you know that we can't trust the government, we're good.
Exactly. That's the best way to sum it up. I think that's about it. Like, as long as you're a decent human being, you're good in my book. And that's all that should matter.
Yeah.
I don't think we could have something like what happened in V for Vendetta happen in America. Maybe another country, but not here.
We're too big.
Yeah. It's there's too many different opinions here is the problem.
Yeah.
Like we wouldn't, I don't like bringing this up, but when back in 2001, we all had a common goal, fight terrorism. So we all kind of put aside our differences and stuff like that. We've proven time and time again, in America, like that was the
tragedy is the only thing that unites us.
Right.
Sadly.
In V for Vendetta, they made it seem like that we had a second civil war, which sometimes you think that actually could happen, but
sometimes you can think it's already happening. Honestly.
Right. It's one of those things like the US of A was portrayed as this country that couldn't get along had a second civil war amongst itself, and then started fighting and stuff like that. That's why we were weakened. And yeah, we might fight and bicker, but I'm not picking up a gun to go after anybody, you know. So, and that's me personally. So, and I live in the South. So, you know, for all those people out there like, oh, well, you're a Southerner, you have a gun. Yeah, I do, but it's for home defense, not assaulting people. So
in the end, everything comes down to perspective. You're going to always find someone with a different perspective than you, and neither one you can say is really right. I mean, let's get nerdy about it since we are a nerdy podcast. I'm gonna explain this in a nerdy way. The Empire and the Rebellion. Now, if you look at it very black and white, and how the story is meant to be portrayed, the Empire is the bad guys, the rebels are the good guys. But both have a reason for believing that their order is the best way for order. Now, as a viewer, we tend to all agree with the rebels. We don't like the Empire. But the Empire did create a secure galaxy. It just wasn't a very free one.
Right.
So it really comes down to perspective. And as long as you're not in, the reason why the Empire got the bad nick it did is because it did infringe on people's freedoms. Right. It infringed on people's right to just live. I mean, so many people were in slavery in the galaxy. And just treat people nicely. Right. At the end of the day, it sounds so simple and childlike, but it really is. Be nice to each other.
Or else, if we do have a V for Vendetta thing come about, are you going to be one of those that puts on the Guy Fawkes mask and marches, or are you going to stay in your house? Yeah.
The problem is everyone's going to put the Guy Fawkes mask on, but they're going to go and do different things, and then there's just going to be Guy Fawkes fighting each other, and it's like that's how divided we are right now.
Right.
And we got to realize, unless it comes down to human rights, life and death, mental health, besides that kind of stuff, none of it matters.
And this movie, I'm glad we're talking about it like in the 1st of November, because we also have Thanksgiving coming up. So, and you know, kind of the thought processes behind it. Alan Moore did a great job of portraying this particular story of the government that went too far and the vigilante that stood up to him, inspired a revolution. It's very, very well done. And it really has secondary motives of be thankful for what you have, you know, because it could be taken away and then you might have to fight for it, but hopefully not. So be thankful for what you have, treat others with kindness, and just go about the rest of the month into Thanksgiving with us, spreading nerd love and nerd acceptance throughout the cosmos. So,
and have a great Thanksgiving too.
Yeah, definitely.
With your family.
Let's get into before we wrap it all the way up, let's get into our Talk Nerdy segment. I don't have anything for this week. No, I don't have anything for this week just because we're recording early. So we haven't really had any input on some of our past episodes. We're trying to get this one recorded ahead of time. But for this one, we do have a question to ask you. So let's get into that.
Hello, can you hear me?
Each episode, the Bear and the Beard ask a question that they want your input on, along with sharing comments, suggestions, and other things they have already collected. They love to hear from their fans, so let's get nerdy with it.
All right. Just to further the discussion, since we talked about it a little bit, we want to ask you, dear viewer and dear listener, who's your favorite character from V for Vendetta? We gave you some great ones, some great examples, some great actors and actresses that portrayed their roles very well. As much as I would love to say that Hugo Weaving was my favorite character, I'm leaning more towards Stephen Ray, the inspector himself, Mr. Finch, as my favorite character, just because he was putting all the pieces together. He was always one step behind V, but he was still putting it together right there with him, and he was trying to do the right thing, even though his government told him this is the way you should do it. He's like, nah, I got my own way and it's going to work. And it does. So I'm leaning more toward Finch for my favorite character.
For me, I'm going with Sutler. I loved to hate him so much. And John Hurt is just an incredible actor with so much talent. They should just put him in everything.
Yeah. That's a great choice. Like, he was the best villain. Like, I swear. And like you said, he's been in a lot of other stuff playing a good villain. So yeah. So let us know, listener, who was your favorite character from V for Vendetta? There might even be characters in the novel that weren't in the movie. So in the graphic novel. So let us know. Who's your favorite character from V for Vendetta, both graphic novel and movie wise. And that'll take us out of the Talk Nerdy segment for this episode. So let's play that outro music.
Be sure to send in your response to this week's Talk Nerdy topic, and any other nerdy stuff like episode topic suggestions, fan theories, or cosplay photos so we can put it in future episodes. If you think it's nerdy, we want you to share it. The Talk Nerdy links like the email and website are in the episode description as always. And don't forget, you can also call or text the Nerd Line. That number is in the description as well. That's all for now. Let's get back to the show.
All right. So I guess all that's left here, bearded brother of mine, is to give it our overall rating. So we know you do beards and I do bear claws. So how many beards out of 10 do you give the film V for Vendetta?
I give it 8 out of 10 beards.
8 out of 10 beards. That's a great rating coming from you. I give it 9 out of 10 bear claws, just because based off of its graphic novel, every time I watch it, I'm just like, there's nothing wrong with this movie. And then you might notice one or two little things. So 9 out of 10. So that's an overall rating for us. Essentially an average of 8.5. So 8.5. But yeah,
it's a pretty damn good movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
I'm reserving those 10s for something.
If you haven't seen it, which I'm pretty sure most of the people that would watch this or see this have probably already seen it. But if you haven't seen it recently, I encourage you to go back and watch it again. Just with everything going on in the world now, knowing what you know now from listening and or watching this episode, go back and watch it with some new eyes, with a fresh take, maybe, and see what you think, and let us know in the comments on that too, what you think about this movie now that it's been a little while since it came out. But in the meantime, we're gonna get out of here. We got bonus episode coming out next week. We did an interview with Colin K. Bass of NerdBot, so that'll be coming out next week, hopefully. If not, it'll definitely be the week after. We got a What If episode coming out soon where we're going to talk all about What If. So if you haven't caught up, go catch up. This is one of your early spoiler warnings, because we're going to talk about all the 8 episodes. And then we're going to have another episode coming out hopefully in November with this other podcast we're doing, but details to follow as those develop. And I think that's really much it. Oh, let's go ahead and put this out to the listeners too. If you've made it to the end of this episode with us, we're going to do another fan casting episode for the first one of the first episodes of 2022. So if you want to give us a character that has not appeared in the MCU as of yet, and has not already been cast, let's go ahead and do that too. So like, maybe you have a different opinion of who Adam Warlock should have been. And yes, I know 2022 is going to see Guardians 3 coming out, I think, with Adam Warlock in it. He's already been cast, so let's stay away from stuff like that. But other characters like Sentry that could show up in future movies, or we're mostly gonna focus on the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and some of their villains, and we're gonna cast.
And we're not gonna cast them as anyone who's ever played him. So it's not like we're saying, Hugh Jackman has to come back. This guy has to. No, it's all new people, fresh eyes.
Exactly. And if you have any input on that, if you have any characters that you want to hear our opinions on and give us your opinions on, let us know. Go ahead and let us know ahead of time so we can put that into the episode. And we really just thank y'all for hanging out with us again for this week. And in the meantime, I've been the Bear.
I've been the Beard.
I want to remind you, as always, to stay awesome,
stay bearded,
and much love, guys. We'll see y'all next episode. Until then, we are out of here.
Boom, cut the check. All right.
Another episode done. We hope you enjoyed it. New episodes are released every other Friday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. Check back then or subscribe so that your device downloads it automatically. Audio episodes are now available pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts, so it's really easy to share us with all of your nerdy friends. For YouTube viewers, subscribe and click that little bell so you're notified about new episodes. And Apple users, please don't forget to rate and review on the app. Rating and reviewing helps more nerds find us. Lastly, a huge thanks to the rest of the Beard Bear team. Head researcher and graphic designer Mama Bear, Master of Marketing Han Brolo, and all of the geeks of the round table and friends of the cast. Thank you all so much. I'll get you next time, nerds. Until then, stay awesome, stay bearded, and much love. Bye!